Hi guys. I want to welcome you to this new topic. This topic is called Levels of Analysis in International Relations. I'm sorry for my voice. And what I'm going to introduce you is, as you know, there are many actors involved in international relations: states, nations, multinational corporations, intergovernmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, the media, and all of this multiplicity of influences can affect the processes that happen in the international system. So levels of analysis are those possible explanations to the why questions that we might have, right? So international relations scholars, they have proposed various levels of analysis or schemes. These schemes are going to be categorized in four. So whenever you think of levels of analysis, just remember that they try to explain the why. So it's just a way to explore the evidence you have when an international issue occurs. So the definition proposed by Kenneth Walls, one of my favorite political scientists. He recently died 3 years ago, but it doesn't matter. So the definition of levels of analysis Kenneth Walls proposed is that these are levels of generalization to help you understand highly complex problems in world politics. So in other words, it's a way to provide you like a general idea in order for you to understand these highly complex problems we live in, like the one we were exploring last class on the Islamic State. So these types of analysis and the ones that are widely used are the individual, the state, and the interstate system. There's a fourth one that can be also discussed, which is the global level of analysis. And I'm about to explain each one of you very quickly, each one of those very quickly. So, when it comes to individual level, think about all the perceptions, the choices, and the actions of individual human beings. Like, for example, if we speak about great leaders, without Lenin, there might well have been no Soviet Union. And what would happen if people have voted for Nixon rather than Kennedy in the 1960 election? Probably the Cuban Missile Crisis would have ended differently, right? And not what we know and how we know it ended. So the individual level of analysis is going to speak about these types of examples, right? Like what the great leaders do, what the crazy leaders do in their decision making, how do they decide things in crisis, the psychology and perception of the decision, if there are assassinations or accidents in history, the learning that their decisions brought to history, and these are just some examples. So individual level, like its name says, is going to focus on individuals, the ones that take decisions in issues that might involve one country, two countries, or more countries. So when we move to the state level, which is also called domestic level or societal level, it's going to concern on the aggregations of individuals, but within the states, and how these decisions might influence their actions within and then later be translated into the international arena. Like, for example, we would speak about probably political organizations and government agencies and how they interact within a specific territory, but how they might be portrayed when it comes to the international arena. So we're speaking probably about internal policies and then how this might look like when it comes to foreign policies, right? So within state level, there are things that can be analyzed, such as nationalism or ethnic conflict or the type of government, or if it's a democracy or a dictatorship, if you have domestic coalitions, what about the political parties and the elections? Is there any public opinion towards the issue? Is there any gender-related topic that you might explore? What about the economic sectors and industries? Do you have a military industrial complex? And what about the foreign policy bureaucracy? So these are just some examples of things that you might try to look up when trying to define an issue by the state or domestic level. The third one is called interstate level, or often called international system. This is going to focus on the interactions of states, and is not really going to pay a lot of attention on the individuals who lead these states. So the interstate system is going to pay attention to the state's relative power and its position it has on the international system. So this has been traditionally called the most important of the three levels, and this is really based on the power that each state has. So the interstate level is going to analyze broadly how states work with each other in the international system and how other international actors might affect their decisions and international relations with others. So you might be speaking of things such as power, the balance of power, if there are any alliances in politics, of course, wars, treaties, the trade agreements you may have, if there is any reciprocity, and this is linked to the concept of liberalism, as you already know, if there are any bargaining options or negotiating options you may have, if there are any summit meetings very tied to the concept of diplomacy and trade agreements, and if there are any IGOs or NGOs involved. Finally, we have the global level, and this one tries to explain international outcomes in terms of global trends that might transcend the interactions of states. So, as its name says, this not only affects 2, 3, or more countries, but it affects the world entirely. So you might probably be talking about European imperialism. Is it the one that resulted from the Conference of Berlin, or is it a new type of European imperialism? What about world environment issues, the advances you might have in scientific and business communities, global telecommunications, the technology change, the information revolution, war regions of the world, and something called as north-south gap and the disparity it might have in terms of development and income. So these are just ways, I tell you, when you are trying to analyze an issue, a conflict, a topic, you might want to try to look it into, is it a state type of issue? Is it an international type of issue? Is this global, or can this be analyzed by the decisions of one single person? So this is just as international relations theories, the levels of analysis helps you get more deep into complex issues.